The stars had always been a mystery to Earth. For centuries, humans gazed up at the night sky, wondering if anyone was out there. There were stories, dreams, and hopes of making contact with alien civilizations, but for most it was just a fantasy. Little did the people of Earth know that the moment of first contact was fast approaching, and it wouldn't be the peaceful, friendly encounter they had imagined. It started small, almost unnoticed. In the early hours of a calm Tuesday, several countries around the world picked up strange signals coming from deep space. Scientists and military personnel were puzzled, unsure whether they were receiving a random glitch in their systems or something more. As the days passed, the signals became clearer, more direct. It was no longer just a random noise in the universe. Someone, or something, was sending a message. At first, people thought it was a hoax, a clever trick by someone with too much time on their hands. But as the signals persisted, Earth's top experts were forced to take them seriously. Governments around the world scrambled to understand what was happening. Military leaders, politicians, and scientists gathered in secret meetings to decode the mysterious signals. Every expert was called in, and the tension in the air was thick as they worked around the clock, trying to make sense of it. Weeks later, the truth became undeniable. The signals were not coming from a distant star or a natural phenomenon. They were intelligent messages from an alien civilization, the first real contact with extraterrestrial life. It was both thrilling and terrifying. How could Earth respond to this? No one was prepared for what came next. The signals had one clear message. The Galactic Empire, a powerful alien force, was watching Earth. They had been observing the planet for years, studying its people, its resources, its technologies. And now, they had decided it was time to act. The Empire had set its sights on Earth. They viewed the planet as a valuable prize, full of potential for conquest. Its resources were abundant, and its position in the galaxy made it a strategic asset. Earth's leaders received the message one fateful day. It was direct, with no room for misunderstanding. The Galactic Empire had decided that Earth was to be brought under their control. They had no interest in peaceful negotiations or peaceful cohabitation. The message was clear. Earth would become part of the Empire, whether its people liked it or not. The message also contained a warning. Earth had one chance to comply, one chance to surrender without resistance. If humanity chose to fight, the Empire promised to crush them without mercy. The message ended with a chilling statement. You have been given your warning. Decide quickly. Our fleet will arrive soon. At first, there was disbelief. Earth had survived so much. Wars, plagues, famine, and every kind of challenge the planet could throw at its people. But this was something entirely new. No one knew how to respond. The military powers of Earth had never faced an enemy like this. The weapons of the Galactic Empire were far beyond anything the humans had ever seen. But there was a strange sense of hope, too. The message hadn't threatened to destroy the planet outright. The Empire still gave Earth a choice. Could there be a way to fight back? Global leaders, unsure of what to do, called an emergency meeting. The United Nations summoned representatives from all over the world. News outlets across the globe broadcasted the message from the Empire, making it clear that Earth was now under the Empire's watchful eye. People from all walks of life, scientists, politicians, ordinary citizens, began to wonder if humanity stood any chance against such a powerful foe. In the midst of the panic, a young military commander named Colonel Sarah Jennings stood up. Her calm, confident voice cut through the chaos. We have faced impossible odds before, she said, her words steady despite the fear that everyone else felt. This will not be the first time we have overcome something that seemed unbeatable. Earth is not the type of place that surrenders easily. Her words gave people a spark of hope. Despite the overwhelming odds, they refused to believe that they could be defeated without a fight. Humanity had always found a way to adapt, to survive, and to push forward. Could that same strength help them now? But as the world debated what to do, the first sign of the Empire's power came. A massive ship appeared in Earth's orbit. It was a vast, metallic structure that blocked out the sun. The ship's appearance alone was enough to make people's blood run cold. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. It hovered silently, a perfect reminder that the threat was real. The Galactic Empire was no longer just a distant message in space. It was here. And just like that, Earth's fate had changed forever. The human race was now facing a force far beyond anything they could have imagined. But as people stared up at the shadow of the alien ship, one thought was shared by many. Earth would not give up without a fight. The countdown had begun. The strange ship that hovered above Earth's sky wasn't just a sign of the Galactic Empire's power. It was the first of many signs that the world would never be the same. For days, people stared at it, mouths agape, hearts pounding with fear and uncertainty. Governments scrambled to take action, but no one truly knew how to face such an advanced enemy. The military's best weapons seemed like toys compared to the might of the alien fleet. Humanity had been given a warning, but what did it really mean? The Galactic Empire had claimed Earth as its own, but could Earth resist? Or was the Empire right? Was resistance pointless? The days stretched on in tension. Leaders around the world tried to maintain order, but panic spread. People gathered in groups, discussing what might happen. Some believed they should surrender, thinking the Empire's power was too overwhelming to fight. Others, like Colonel Sarah Jennings, continued to believe that Earth could stand strong. "We've fought against impossible odds before," she reminded everyone. This is no different. But even Colonel Jennings knew that the Empire wasn't like anything they had faced before. Their technology was advanced beyond comprehension, and their fleet was enormous. What could Earth possibly do to stand against them? As the days passed, humanity's leaders decided to act. They turned to their most brilliant minds, scientists, engineers, and military strategists, to find a way to answer the Empire's challenge. There was no room for mistakes. The planet's survival depended on what they did next. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more complicated, a strange signal was detected. It wasn't another warning or demand from the Empire. It was something else. A new message, but this one was different. It was from an unknown source, not from the alien fleet. The message was clear but cryptic. It seemed to be a kind of puzzle, with parts of it scrambled or missing. Whoever sent it was trying to make contact. But why? The message contained no threat. There were no demands. Instead, it was a simple question: will you fight? The message echoed through every communication channel on Earth. News networks scrambled to cover it, and governments quickly ordered their experts to analyze the message. The tone wasn't threatening, but it carried a weight of urgency. Whoever had sent it, whether friend or foe, wanted an answer. The message was quickly traced to an uncharted region of space, far from the Empire's fleet. It wasn't a military signal, and it didn't seem like an attempt to confuse Earth. It was a call for help. But from who? And why would anyone reach out in such a way? Scientists worked day and night to decode the signal, but there was only so much they could understand. The message hinted at something important about the Galactic Empire. It spoke of a great power, a secret hidden within the Empire's very core, a power that could change everything. Meanwhile, on Earth, Colonel Sarah Jennings and her team gathered in a war room, facing down the most difficult question humanity had ever had to answer. "Should we trust this message?" she asked, her voice calm but with a hint of doubt. "Is it another trick, or is it our one chance to strike back?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew what was at stake. Eventually, after much deliberation, Earth's leaders made a decision. They would respond to the message. There was no certainty that the sender was an ally, but if there was even a small chance of gaining an advantage over the Empire, they had to take it. They had to fight. The response was simple: yes, we will fight. And with that, Earth officially chose its path. The military began to prepare for what was coming. Soldiers were trained, new weapons were developed, and strategies were drawn up. The scientists began working with the military to understand what the mysterious message meant about the Empire's weaknesses. Colonel Sarah Jennings stood before a group of young soldiers, preparing them for the battle ahead. "We may be facing something far stronger than us," she told them, "but remember this. We are humans. We adapt, we survive, and we fight like no one else can." As the days turned into weeks, Earth's preparations grew more intense. Nations that had once been divided now worked together, setting aside their differences in the face of the Empire's overwhelming force. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders from every corner of the world shared their knowledge and skills. They understood that survival depended on unity. And then, just as humanity began to feel a glimmer of hope, another message came from the Empire. This time, it wasn't a warning. It wasn't even a demand. It was a promise. "We gave you one chance," the message said. "Now you will see the true power of the Galactic Empire." The message cut off abruptly, and Earth's leaders braced themselves for the worst. But they were ready. They had made their decision. Earth would not surrender. Earth would fight. Earth was on edge. The message from the Galactic Empire had shaken everyone, but there was no time for fear. Every country, every city, was in preparation mode. There was no more uncertainty about what was coming. The alien empire had promised to show Earth its true power, and humanity knew that it had to be ready. Colonel Sarah Jennings stood in a control room, surrounded by screens showing images of the Empire's enormous ship still floating above Earth. It had been there for weeks now, never moving, never attacking. It was as though the Empire was waiting for something, waiting for Earth to make the first move. The tension was thick. Every military leader knew that this was a game of patience, but how long could they keep waiting before the Empire decided it was time to act? As the days went by, Earth's armies were trained, technology was upgraded, and defenses were put in place. People across the world did everything they could to support the cause. Governments sent out messages to unite the population, urging them to stand strong, no matter how impossible the situation seemed. Citizens volunteered to help in any way they could, from working on weapons to providing food for the soldiers. The world was coming together in a way no one had ever seen before. The Empire had no idea what it had just awakened. But then, something unexpected happened. A small group of scientists, led by Dr. Maria Williams, made a breakthrough. They had been working tirelessly on a way to communicate with the strange alien technology aboard the Empire's ship. Their goal was to find out if there was any chance of understanding what the Empire really wanted, and whether it could be stopped. After weeks of failure, they finally succeeded. A crackling voice, not unlike the ones in the previous messages, spoke through their newly created communication device. This time, the voice wasn't a threat. It was different, calm, almost human. "We are watching," the voice said simply. "You have proven that you are willing to fight, but what do you truly seek? Do you think you can win?" The message came as a shock. For the first time, Earth had made contact with the Empire in a meaningful way. The voice on the other end seemed to be waiting for an answer. Was it testing them, or was it offering them a chance to speak? Colonel Jennings, who had been leading Earth's military response, was called in to hear the message. Dr. Williams and her team played the recording, and Jennings' eyes narrowed as she listened. She had expected more threats, more demands. Instead, the Empire seemed curious. "We want peace," Jennings answered, speaking into the device. "We do not seek war, but we will not bow to your empire. We will fight for our planet, for our people." The room was silent after her response. For a long moment, there was no reply from the Empire. No message came through. Had they heard her, or had they simply decided it wasn't worth replying? Just as Jennings was about to leave the room, the voice returned, almost too softly to hear. "Then we will see if your kind can survive the trial." The message ended abruptly, leaving everyone in the room in shock. No one knew what that meant. What trial was the Empire speaking of? Were they going to attack soon? Or was this part of some larger plan to break humanity's spirit? Jennings couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a military conflict. It was something much bigger. The Galactic Empire wasn't just testing humanity's strength. They were testing their will. How far would humans go to protect their world? Would they back down when faced with unimaginable odds? Or would they fight until the very end? Meanwhile, the massive ship in the sky remained silent, like a dark cloud hanging over Earth. And yet, despite all the uncertainty and fear, there was a new sense of purpose among the people. They were no longer just reacting to the Empire's threats. They were preparing for something far more important, to prove to themselves and to the galaxy that Earth was not a planet to be taken easily. The preparation continued. Weapons were built. New technologies were created. The human race pulled together in a way that no one had ever thought possible. Scientists and military leaders worked side by side. Cities were fortified. Each country supported the others, no matter their past differences. Earth's people were united, for the first time in history, with a single purpose. Colonel Jennings addressed her team once more before they moved into the final stages of their plan. "We know what we're up against," she said, her voice steady but full of conviction. "And we know that we may not win. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we fight. We fight for Earth. We fight for our families. We fight for our future." Her words were simple, but they resonated with everyone in the room. They had all come to understand the stakes. It wasn't just about survival. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity wasn't weak. They weren't afraid of the Empire. And they wouldn't surrender without a fight. And so, with the calm before the storm, Earth's preparations reached their peak. The countdown to war had begun. The Empire had made its move. Now, Earth would make its stand. The days following the strange message from the Empire were filled with uncertainty. Earth's people had united in the face of the alien threat, but no one truly knew what to expect next. The words, "We will see if your kind can survive the trial," echoed in the minds of many. What did it mean? What kind of trial were the Empire's forces preparing for humanity? Colonel Sarah Jennings and the rest of Earth's military leaders spent countless hours discussing what was coming next. They couldn't shake the feeling that the Empire was planning something far more complicated than just an invasion. The calm, patient manner in which the Empire communicated made it feel like they were in control. It made it all the more dangerous. The world watched in silence as the enormous alien ship loomed above Earth, a constant reminder of the threat. No attacks came. No ships arrived to join the massive vessel hovering in Earth's atmosphere. But it didn't matter. People all around the globe could feel the tension building, like a storm waiting to break. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Empire made its move. Without warning, the ship above Earth began to send out pulses of energy. At first, the pulses seemed harmless, like waves rippling through the air. But then, the true power of the pulses became clear. They were disrupting communications around the world, scrambling satellites, and knocking out electrical grids. The pulse was like a giant wave, washing over the planet and leaving chaos in its wake. Cities went dark. Communication lines were severed. Technology, which had once been humanity's greatest strength, suddenly felt useless. "We need to respond now," Colonel Jennings said, her voice sharp. She and her team had been preparing for something like this, but the sheer force of the attack still caught them off guard. The Empire was showing just how powerful it could be, and humanity's systems, fragile as they were barely holding on. But Jennings wasn't afraid. Her team had spent weeks preparing for a counterattack, knowing that Earth would have to rely on its resourcefulness and creativity to survive. They didn't have the advanced technology the Empire had, but they had something just as valuable: their determination. The military's defense system kicked into gear. Ships designed to protect Earth's atmosphere were quickly launched into the sky. These ships weren't advanced like the Empire's. They didn't have the sleek designs or powerful weapons, but they were equipped with everything Earth had learned in the past few weeks. They were ready for this moment. "We won't back down," Jennings said, clenching her fists. She knew the fight ahead would be difficult, but humanity's resolve had never been stronger. As the pulse continued to disrupt Earth's systems, the first of the defense ships reached the outer atmosphere. They began firing at the energy pulses, trying to block them from doing further damage. But the alien technology was too advanced. The defense ships struggled to even get close, unable to land a solid blow on the Empire's ship. The pulses were too strong, and the alien ship was too powerful. But Earth's military wasn't finished. They knew this was only the first round, and they had no choice but to keep fighting. Earth's forces weren't going to give up just because the odds seemed impossible. Then something unexpected happened. As the energy pulses continued, one of the ships sent a signal back to Earth's command center. It wasn't the usual military message. It wasn't a report. It was a warning. Meanwhile, in the cities around the world, the people were preparing in their own way. The pulse attacks had left many without power, and the uncertainty of the trial weighed heavily on everyone. But something remarkable was happening. Despite the fear, despite the damage, Earth's citizens were more united than ever. People helped each other, shared resources, and offered support in ways that had never been seen before. Communities came together, strangers became friends, and the world seemed to be united by the threat they all faced. This was a war, yes, but it was also something more. It was a testament to humanity's ability to come together when it mattered most. As the countdown to the Empire's trial began, Jennings looked out over the horizon. The sky above Earth was no longer just the sky. It was a battleground, a place where humanity would prove itself. It was a place where they would fight not just for survival, but for the very future of their world. The next day, the Empire's massive ship began to move. Its engines roared to life as it descended toward Earth's surface. Jennings and her team watched in awe as the ship began to take its final position, hovering just above the ground. It was a terrifying sight, but Jennings refused to show fear. Earth had already shown its strength, and now it would show its courage. "This is it," she said, taking a deep breath. "This is our moment." The people of Earth watched in silence as the ship landed. No one knew what the trial would be, but everyone knew that they had one chance to prove themselves. Earth was about to face its greatest challenge. Would it stand tall, or would it fall to the might of the Galactic Empire? Only time would tell. The massive ship from the Galactic Empire was now just above Earth's surface. It was a sight no one had ever imagined. Its size was beyond anything humanity had ever seen, casting a shadow that seemed to stretch across entire cities. But the most unsettling thing was the silence. Despite all the power and the threat it represented, the ship didn't make a sound. Colonel Sarah Jennings stood in front of a large screen in the command center, staring at the live feed of the alien ship. It was now fully landed, its enormous doors open, revealing a path leading inside. Earth's forces had prepared for this moment, but no one truly knew what to expect. What kind of trial had the Empire promised? Would it be a battle? A test of intelligence? Something far worse. "We need to stay calm," Jennings said, her voice steady but full of determination. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As she spoke, the world watched from their homes, their screens, and their radios. The global community, united in fear and hope, held their breath as they waited for the Empire's next move. Humanity had shown its strength. It had fought back against the Empire's attacks. Now it would face the trial they had been warned about. Minutes passed, and then the voice of the Empire returned. This time, it was different. There was no message, no long speech, only a single command. "Send your best." The words hung in the air, unsettling everyone who heard them. What did it mean? Was the Empire asking for a single representative from Earth, or did it mean something more? The confusion lasted only a moment before Jennings took action. She knew what had to be done. "We'll go," she said, speaking to her team. "We'll be the ones to face the Empire's trial." The world is counting on us. Jennings knew this was no time for hesitation. Earth's military might be able to fight off the Empire, but this wasn't a battle with weapons. This was a test that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. As Jennings and her team prepared to leave, they were met by a group of Earth's most skilled scientists, engineers, and diplomats. These were the people who had been working day and night to understand the Empire's technology, its culture, and its ways. Now, they were about to face their biggest challenge yet. The doors of the alien ship stood open, waiting. The team boarded a transport ship and made their way toward the massive vessel. The air around the ship was still, heavy with tension. They had no idea what lay ahead, but there was no turning back now. When they arrived at the ship, they were greeted by the eerie quiet of the ship's interior. It was vast and silent, with walls that seemed to stretch endlessly. The light inside was dim, but there was an unmistakable sense of power that radiated from every corner. It was as if the very air inside the ship held the weight of something ancient and formidable. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them. It wasn't a human. It was one of the beings from the Galactic Empire, tall, with sharp features and eyes that glowed faintly. Its presence was overwhelming, like standing in the presence of something beyond comprehension. "You have come," the being said in a voice that echoed through the ship. "Humanity has shown resilience, but the trial is not yet over." The team stood still, unsure of what to say. They had expected something more. Grand, perhaps, but this being's cold demeanor made them realize just how serious this trial would be. The figure raised one hand, and the room around them seemed to shift. Suddenly, the team found themselves standing in a new environment. The floor beneath them felt solid, but the air was different, more intense, more charged. "This," the being continued, "is your trial. You must prove your worth, or your species will be removed." Jennings looked around. It wasn't clear what the trial was, but it was undeniable that the stakes were higher than anything they had faced before. Her team exchanged glances, knowing that the fate of humanity rested on their actions. "What do we have to do?" Jennings asked, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. The being stepped forward. "You must choose. Each of you will face a challenge, a test of your deepest fears. You will confront them alone. If you succeed, humanity will be allowed to live. If you fail, the consequences will be irreversible." The room fell silent. Jennings took a deep breath, steadying herself. She looked around at her team, who all stood tall, ready to face whatever came next. "I'll go first," she said, her voice unwavering. "We can do this. We have to." The being nodded, and the world around her seemed to shift once more. Jennings was alone now, standing in a dark, empty space. Her heart raced as she realized that this was the trial. She was about to face whatever fear, whatever doubt, had been hidden deep within her for years. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. She would not back down. As she moved deeper into the darkness, she knew one thing for sure. Earth's future depended on them, and she wasn't going to fail. Colonel Sarah Jennings stood alone in the darkness. The air felt thick around her, pressing in like a heavy weight. Her heart beat loudly in her chest as she took one cautious step forward, unsure of what awaited her in the depths of this strange place. The cold, empty space seemed endless, and the silence was deafening. Her mind raced, but she focused on one thing: humanity. Earth was depending on her. There was no time to hesitate. She had to face whatever challenge lay ahead. The being from the Empire had said they would face their deepest fears. Jennings wasn't sure what her own fear was, but she knew this trial would test more than just physical strength. It would test her courage, her resolve, and her ability to make the right choices under unimaginable pressure. As she walked through the darkness, a voice echoed around her. It was low and ominous, like a whisper that came from all directions. "You have proven your worth so far," the voice said, "but the trial is not complete. You must now face the truth." The space around her shifted suddenly, as if the very ground beneath her was changing. The darkness lifted to reveal an image, a vision of Earth, but not the Earth she knew. This Earth was in ruins, cities destroyed. The sky dark and filled with smoke. The sound of distant explosions echoed through the scene. Jennings stared at the destruction before her. It was a future she feared, a future where Earth had failed. The people of her world were gone, their hopes and dreams crushed. This was her deepest fear, the failure of humanity. Is this the truth? She whispered to herself, stepping closer to the vision. Is this the future we face? The voice answered, cold and distant. This is what will happen if you fail the trial. Your species will be wiped out, forgotten by the galaxy. All that you have worked for will be lost. Jennings clenched her fists, fighting the rising panic inside her. She had to remain calm. She had to make the right choice. The vision in front of her was only a possibility. It wasn't certain, not yet. She took a deep breath and forced herself to look away from the vision of destruction. She turned back toward the dark void, where the being from the Empire had first appeared. She knew she couldn't let fear control her. "You think this will break me?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear in her heart. "I won't let Earth fall. I will do whatever it takes to protect my people. This is not our future." The voice paused as if considering her words. The vision of Earth in ruins began to fade, slowly disappearing into the darkness. The oppressive atmosphere lightened, and the silence was broken by a faint hum. "You have passed the test," the voice finally said. "You have faced your fear, and you have chosen to stand strong. Humanity's resolve is clear. You have proven that you are worthy." Jennings let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The pressure that had weighed so heavily on her shoulders lifted, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt a sense of peace. The trial was over. The dark space around her began to change once again. The walls of the ship reappeared, and the dim lights flickered to life. She was no longer alone. Her team, who had each faced their own trials, now stood beside her. They looked weary, but their faces were determined. Jennings smiled, relieved to see them. They had all made it through. They had faced their fears and emerged stronger than before. The being from the Empire appeared once more. This time, it looked different, less menacing, almost respectful. "You have passed the trial," it said, its voice soft but clear. "Your species has shown that it has the strength to survive, to adapt, and to rise above challenges. We will leave Earth in peace, but know this: the galaxy is watching. The future of humanity is now yours to shape." With those words, the being turned and walked away. The massive doors of the ship opened, revealing the bright light of Earth's sun shining through. The ship, which had once been a looming threat, now seemed small and insignificant in comparison to the vastness of the sky above. Jennings and her team walked out of the ship, blinking in the sunlight. They had done it. Earth had survived the trial. The Galactic Empire had been forced to acknowledge humanity's strength, resilience, and will to fight. As they stood there, looking out over the world they had saved, Jennings couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. Humanity had proven itself, not just to the Empire, but to the galaxy. They had shown that no matter the odds, no matter the challenges, Earth would never back down. "We did it," one of her team members said quietly, his voice full of awe. Jennings nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "We did." As Earth's leaders began to speak to the world, announcing their victory, Jennings knew that this was just the beginning. The future of humanity was now in their hands. They had faced the greatest challenge they would ever know, and they had won. The galaxy had been warned. Never underestimate humanity. And so Earth's story continued, with a new strength, a renewed sense of hope, and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. They had earned their place in the stars.